Welcome back, everybody. It's time for another edition of Silver and Black Today, an Odyssey Sports original podcast. Also heard on the radio, 101.5 KDON, 840 KXNT in Las Vegas. Skockle Branson, Mo Moten back with you to talk Raiders football. Of course, coming off the Sunday loss. Have you ever seen Raider Nation so happy with a loss? I don't think I have in 9 years, but that's where we're at. We'll get into that. Do us a favor. Make sure you subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts, your audio. Just look for Silver and Black Today. Do us a big favor, if you would, please. Don't forget to rate and review. If you're watching us on video, thank you. It's good to see you. Make sure you subscribe there. Hit the notifications bell and a thumbs up. We certainly appreciate all the comments as well. Scott back with Mo. Of course, Mo, my partner here. He's a senior NFL writer over at Bleacher Report, where he covers the whole NFL. He's also the Raiders columnist at sportsnot.com. You can follow him on x.com at Mo Moten, M-O-E. M-O-T-O-N. I am at LV Gully. The show is SNB Today. All right, Mo, first time you and I have spoken since the just fantastic game we saw at Allegiant Stadium this past Sunday, 34-10. The Raiders lose to the Giants, which Raider Nation, for the most part, happy with. The Raiders, as we talk today, going into next week's action, have the number 1 pick in the draft. They have an 80% chance of keeping that no matter what the result. If they were to beat the Chiefs on Sunday, yes, they're playing the hated Kansas City Chiefs at home, and Sunday the Chiefs without a lot of their talent as well. But if the Raiders were to beat the Chiefs, they could still hold on to that spot, but some other things have to happen within that scenario. But from all intents and purposes, Mo, barring some weirdness happening, which could happen, the Raiders have secured that number 1 pick, and for most of us, that's an easy pick. That is Fernando Mendoza out of the University of Indiana as the quarterback of the future for the Raiders. But let's rewind a little bit to the play up to the game. We have, of course, the Maxx Crosby situation, which I want to get into a little bit later and talk about that. But you and I were talking before we went on the air about the Pete Carroll situation and scenarios that you had talked about as it results with the Raiders sitting players, adding players to IR ahead of this game against the Giants on Sunday. And then, of course, the finale against the Chiefs this coming Sunday. And there seems to have been a change in the building with some of the plan. There has been no question that Pete Carroll has wanted to win now. He's lost 10 games in a row now. And it's the Raiders they're in terrible territory going back to the start of the franchise as far as futility is concerned. So something changed this past week, and the Raiders clearly took aim at the future, took aim at the soft tank, whatever you want to call it. Maxx Crosby going the IR, of course. We saw other players go to the IR as well. We saw Jack Bech sit down after Friday injury report at practice. A lot of things happened, but you sort of broke it down into 2 buckets of maybe what's happening behind the scenes. Outline that for folks, and then I'll jump back in and I'll give you my 2 cents.
So we've heard Pete Carroll basically say he's all about winning, right? Win at all costs. He wasn't very much interested in playing young players. He had underperforming veterans out there. I won't mention any names since you've heard those names throughout the whole year. But now all of a sudden, it seems like he's changed his tune. Now he's sitting his best players or putting them on IR. As you mentioned, Maxx Crosby on IR. Wasn't happy about it. We'll talk about that. As you said, Bech was out. Raheem Mostert out. And they're rotational players. But Brock Bowers, who played a full game last week or week before, also shut down, put on IR. Now, he had a knee injury early in the season, but he came back and he had been fine. Jeremy Chin also shut down for the year. So something, as you said, something has changed. And either A, the Raiders have an agreement with Pete Carroll that, look, if you go along with the program, we'll keep you around for another year. Or B, Pete Carroll has no other choice but to go along with the program. He's going to be fired anyway. So why not just do what they ask you to do? But I think Murph made this point, and he posted it on the X, and it was a great point that when you sit your players like that, it doesn't benefit the head coach, especially when the head coach hasn't won many games, because that means you're going to continue to lose out. It benefits the general manager. The younger guys and the second stringers get to develop, and you get a potentially a higher draft pick for that general manager to use in this case, on probably a quarterback. So there is no benefit here for Pete Carroll other than potentially saying, "Hey, you do this, you get another year." Otherwise, zero benefit for Pete Carroll. Most of the benefit goes to John Spytek, the GM.
Yeah, Murph and I talked about this on the post game show on Sunday, and that was exactly that, which is what has changed. And to me, and this is what I would like to believe, because I think that bringing back Pete Carroll, especially if you are going to take Fernando Mendoza, would be a disaster of even more epic proportions. Because I don't think a 75-year-old man, I don't care who he brings in as his OC, is the guy to develop a young quarterback for the future. I just don't believe that. I think you need a fresh start. You need a head coach and a staff that's going to build around that quarterback, that's going to have 2026 NFL offense mentality, okay, not 1996. So to me, that's what's got to happen. But yes, I think that's exactly what happened. When Murph hit on that on Sunday, I was like, yeah, which is, hey, Pete, listen, we need to see these young guys. Guess what? I don't care. I don't know about the quid pro quo, which I think you're right. There could be a possibility that say, hey, we're going to bring you back, but there's going to be changes. And right now we need you to play young guys, and these other guys are going on the shelf. Right. But either way, something changed. I would like to believe that Mark Davis and John Spytek brought down the hammer and said, okay, look, you've lost 9 in a row going into that game. It's over. This year's over. I don't care if you win another game or not. We need to go forward with what we're planning here. So we'll see if that happens. Now, you look at some of what we saw on Sunday, Mo. Again, the Raiders, while all of you may be happy that the Raiders will get the #1 draft pick in 2026, this is a really bad football team. I mean, there's no other way to say it. To watch that Giants game, and Jackson Dart, I think the Giants do have their quarterback. He's still got developing to do. He's nowhere near perfect or at Drake May's level or anybody like that. But this roster needs so much that it's not going to be done in 1 year. I don't think you'll see a turnaround in Las Vegas like you saw in New England, because I think the Raiders have so many needs. That said, don't let that dissuade you from the fact that they need to start with the quarterback. Mo, when you look at how this plays out, now you got the Chiefs game. I don't think, and I think Murph hit on this a couple days ago, which was the Chiefs do not want to lose to the Raiders, even though the playoffs are out for both teams. And Andy Reid would love to screw up the Raiders getting their franchise quarterback of the future. The Chiefs aren't going to come out and want to lose. Travis Kelce could be playing his last game. We don't know. And if that's the case, he doesn't want to go out losing to the hated Raiders either. But you look at this team and what's happening over the next week. What other things should we watch for, Mo, that might give us a tip at where Spytek and Davis and Brady may be going for the future?
To be honest, I'm just looking at the young guys that are actually going to be on the field. I don't think you can really tell anything from a Week 18 game where it's clear the Raiders are soft tanking.
Yeah.
You're not going to really see anything. This is going to be a glorified preseason game. You're not going to get anything
Absolutely.
from, and especially if the coaching staff either knows it's going to be out or knows it could be out. I mean, there's not much there from the Raiders' perspective of what you can glean from this game, other than guys are going to be playing to showcase themselves for other teams in free agency. As we know, Dylan Parham is going to be a free agent, and the Raiders are going to have a lot of turnover on the roster. A lot of guys are going to be looking for new contracts, either with the Raiders or with other teams. The big storyline about this game is going to be what goes on off the field, and we'll go into this in the second segment, is what's going to happen with Maxx Crosby. You're going to hear it throughout the entire broadcast. They're going to gloss over the game because we all know what the Raiders are doing, right? The stars aren't out there for the Chiefs. Rashee Rice is on IR. It could be Travis Kelce's last game. They'll talk about that, but they're going to talk a lot about what's next for Maxx Crosby and what direction is this team going, even with the #1 pick.
Yeah, and that's what's going to be interesting too. Is do the Raiders? Everybody's asking me about Cam Miller. I mean, why not activate him and throw him out there, right? I mean, the Chiefs are playing a practice squad quarterback, basically. I don't think so. I think you'll see Kenny Pickett. But clearly, yeah, the Raiders' plan here is to try to get out of this, maybe get some guys in there, see some development opportunities, some last film, if you will, before they head in the offseason. But again, that's why I go back to why I just don't see any possible way you can bring back Pete Carroll, because you're going to have to, like you said, Mo, turn over this roster significantly. You have free agents like you talked about, Parham and others, and you need to get younger in spots. You have guys I think that are on the team that get an opportunity to do something in the future. For example, Tommy Eichenberg. Tommy Eichenberg has the most special teams tackles for the Raiders at linebacker. He's gotten very little time at linebacker. That's another guy you'd like to maybe see play next week in a game and see what he does at his natural position. Is he a guy that you want to have in the rotation next year in the future? I'm not saying he's a superstar linebacker. I'm just saying you want to be able to see that. But to me, this with the roster turnover, with a new quarterback coming on, hopefully for the Raiders, there's so much changing. I just don't see somebody that you can't count on, even if your wild expectations were positive past 2 years with Pete Carroll. It doesn't make a lot of sense with where this team needs to go.
Unless Pete Carroll, goes in there and says, "Look, I'll change the way I coach this football team." I don't see, and even if he said
Yeah.
that, I still wouldn't keep him around
How
because
could you trust it?
not only how could you trust him, but I just continue to be concerned about the dynamic between he and Spytek. That power relationship
Yes.
with a very experienced head coach and an relatively inexperienced GM. I just don't like that pairing. And it usually doesn't work out in the GM's favor because of the head coach, especially when the head coach has had personnel power, as Pete Carroll's had in Seattle going back to his
Yeah.
years. It usually doesn't work out well. And
No.
my hope is that this is a cleaning of the house, if you want to call it that. Turn over the roster, spend the money in free agency that you have to spend, get an offensive minded head coach that's going to grow with your quarterback, and hopefully he develops that quarterback into a viable, quality, high end starter. And then again, let that head coach bring in his staff. You have John Spytek there, so it's not a full clean house, but I think John Spytek has earned another year because of, again, I think his rookies, some of them have shown some promise. Now,
Sure.
obviously, we know Ashton Jeanty had the potential, but I think in spots when Jack Bech was able to get on the field, he showed some things. Dante Thornton at the beginning of the year made some plays. Tonka Hemingway quietly has made some plays in the middle of that defensive line. I like what I saw out of him. Darian Porter needs work. We all knew that. He only had one full year starting in college. I think there's still some upside there. But relatively speaking, I don't think John Spytek should lose his job, but I think Pete Carroll
No,
has to go.
no, Mo, they have to empower John Spytek, and I think that's what I want to believe has happened this past week, is that they finally have given John Spytek, they took the training wheels off and said, okay, you don't have to bow down to Pete Carroll anymore. You do what you need to do. You got our backing. We'll talk to Pete too as well, but you need to go out and tell him what you want to do for the final 2 weeks of the season to set us up for success for next season. So to me, that's exactly what's got to happen. So we'll see, and hopefully that is what happened. All right, we're going to step aside for our first break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the Maxx Crosby situation. What do you make of that? I have some very strong feelings about it. We'll talk about Maxx Crosby, his injury, and his response to that injury, and what it means for his future in Las Vegas. You're with Mo and Scott. This is Silver and Black Today. Don't go anywhere. All right, it's that time where we're going to tell you about our good friends at Sleeper Picks, of course, a sponsor here all season long of Silver and Black Today, with their amazing Sleeper Picks daily fantasy football team. And not only that, we have an opportunity for you to get up to $100 match on your deposit for joining up Sleeper Pick. Download the app, put some money in there, and they will match it up to $100 using our special code here at Silver and Black Today, and that is GENTY, as in Ashton Jeanty. Use the code GENTY to get up to $100 match on your first deposit. And we're going to do something a little bit different today. We're going to select Saturday's big game. Mo was excited about this game, and it's early in the week, but we do have some opportunities here to look at this game between the 13-3 Seattle Seahawks and the 14-3 or 14. They're both 14, right? Can't remember now.
12-3 and 11-4. 12-3 Seahawks, 11-4 Niners.
There you go. So this is a big NFC West battle with the Seahawks again. And by the way, Sam Darnold, 13-3, right? Mm-hmm. One of only a few quarterbacks to ever do that in the modern age. Every other quarterback who's done that back-to-back 13-3 seasons has gone on to the Super Bowl. So take that for what you will. But Mo, let's look at this game now. And of course, we got the quarterbacks and the running backs. Christian McCaffrey, just another beast game against the Bears the other night on Sunday night. But let's start with the 49ers side of it. Brock Purdy, Christian McCaffrey, who you got there? What are you doing?
Okay, so the 12 and 49ers, this is an easy one. Christian McCaffrey, anytime touchdown. I mean, it's not going to be a big game unless Christian McCaffrey scores a touchdown, right? I know he had some back issues in that Bears game, but I have no doubts that he's going to play in this one and he's going to reach the end zone.
All right, so we have an anytime touchdown from Christian McCaffrey. Then on the Seattle side, Sam Darnold. I know you said you wanted to bet him to throw an interception, which we can't do.
Can't
But
do that, but the 49ers, as good as they're playing, their pass defense is still very shaky, so I'll take the over on Sam Darnold's passing yard total.
Okay, so the over is 239.5. You're going to take that there as well. Then let's go back to boom, 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 boom. Passing and rushing. Okay, great. Now, what else you got?
So are Sam Darnold's is his touchdown total up?
Let's see. His touchdown total. Let's go there. So you're seeing this right. Passing TD. 1.5 passing TDs.
I'll take the over on that as well. So we're going to do something slick where we kind of put together two plays that are connected. So if Sam Darnold's throwing for a bunch of yards, he's probably going to get a touchdown pass in there. I think he'll get 2 against his Niners pass defense.
There you go. So Mo's got Sam Darnold over the passing yards and then also over 1.5 passing touchdowns, which means 2. And then Christian McCaffrey with an anytime touchdown. That's a no-brainer there for sleeper pick. So make sure you go in, deposit, get the app, deposit up to $100. We're going to match it up to $100 using the code GENTY and win with sleeper picks as well. Don't forget to check out the website or the app for rules and regulations. It's not available in every state, but most states, especially California, where we got a ton of listeners, it is in your state. But make sure you check out all the availability there as well. Don't forget, match up to $100 deposit using the code GENTY at Sleeper Picks, your daily fantasy football home. Go win some money with Mo. Welcome back. Silver and Black today, an Odyssey Sports Original podcast heard on the radio, 101.5 KDON and 840 KXNT in Las Vegas. All right. Make sure you subscribe to the show wherever you get your audio, by the way. Scott and Mo back talking Raiders. We're going to get into the Maxx Crosby situation now, Mo. You know, this was something that was really on everybody's mind once they knew they were going to shut down Maxx Crosby for the season. Then we hear the reaction that Maxx Crosby, the supposed reaction, we heard reports, he stormed out of the building. That's how it was framed, or, you know, left the building, however you want to put it, and was not happy with it. Then we get closer to game time and we see social media video of Maxx Crosby playing basketball at his home gym with his little daughter, beautiful little girl, and great family there, and doing other things as well, playing on a trampoline, all this kind of stuff, which, Mo, I got to be honest with you, I said it on the post-game show, I thought was just a terrible look for Maxx Crosby. I thought it was childish. Listen, he's a gamer. I have the utmost respect for Maxx Crosby, okay? He can react to the way he wants to react. But I thought, okay, I get why you're not happy. But how many times have I heard Maxx Crosby say, and I've heard other people say, it's about the shield. It's about the team. And Maxx Crosby heard something he didn't want to hear. The team shuts him down, puts him on IR. And the reaction from what we've not heard directly from him other than him saying that he didn't care about the draft pick, and that was earlier before he went on IR, and that he's going to play the best of his ability, which I fully believe, and I don't expect any other answer. But the way Maxx Crosby responded here, and I said this to Murph the other night, and you and I talked a lot about this back in the Josh Jacobs days. Remember, Josh Jacobs used to tweet out cryptic stuff. Passive-aggressive. Maxx Crosby's a little more forthcoming with that, but I felt that with this. I thought it was a bad look for a good man because I get you're upset. But if that's why you're upset, I don't think posting videos of you in physical activity when the team just said that you're on IR because you have to have knee surgery is a good thing to do. I know you're playing with your daughter, but nobody's stupid, Max. Everybody can see what you're doing. And to me, that was an FU to the team. I don't think you can put it any way. Now, does he want to trade now? Maybe he does. Maxx Crosby got Antonio Pierce when he wanted Antonio Pierce. He said he might consider a trade if they didn't name Antonio Pierce the coach. Mark Davis gave in, and we saw what happened. So now he hears something else he doesn't want to hear. Mo, I'm just struck by, because look, I got all the respect in the world for him. And I said this the other night. He does a lot of charity work in Las Vegas. He's a good man in addition to being a great football player. But I thought the reaction here from him was handled very poorly.
This is what happens when you know you can pull rank. When you know you have status within an organization, you do things like this. So you just mentioned, right? A couple of years ago, at the end of that Antonio Pierce, Josh McDaniels transition, Maxx Crosby and the players clearly wanted Antonio Pierce to get the job, and Mark Davis listened to them, did what they felt was best for the locker room, right? And I said this on X. I said 2 years ago, Maxx Crosby and the players got what they wanted. This time around, the Raiders are going to do what they feel is best, and Maxx Crosby is just going to have to understand this time around. He got his way. He and the players got their way the first time around. Now the shoe's on the other foot, and it's team first. And you said it, team first, right? We hear it's all about the shield. And I posted this on X too. I said some situations are bigger than the individual player. This is not a Maxx Crosby situation. I think that's the mistake a lot of people are making, that this is personal. This is against Maxx Crosby. This is shutting a player down that wanted to play. Maxx Crosby is not the only player that got shut down. As I said, now, I don't know the status of Jeremy Chin and Brock Bowers' injury, but as far as I know, they had played the entire game before they were shut down for the season.
Yep.
Brock Bowers has not said a word. Jeremy Chin has not said a word. Now, people aren't going to make a big stink about either player because they haven't been forthcoming saying, look, I'm playing no matter what, like Maxx Crosby has. But this is an organizational decision that they felt was best in the big picture. Now, and I wrote this on Bleacher Report, and I'll say it here. Maxx has to see the bigger picture. He's an incredible player. He's a phenomenal player. He's going to be one of the great Raiders when he retires, right? But how much were they winning with him playing at his best, Scott?
Yes.
He's played in one playoff game since the Raiders drafted him in 2019. They didn't win that playoff game. They've had one winning season since they drafted Maxx Crosby. And I'm not saying that's his fault, but what I'm saying is he needs help. He can't do it alone. And you know where that help comes from? Getting the quarterback, Scott. We've gone through how many quarterbacks since they moved on from Derek Carr? We've had Jimmy Garoppolo. We've had Brian Hoyer. We've had Gardner Minshew. We've had Aiden O'Connell. We've had Geno Smith. We've had Desmond Ridder. We've had all of these quarterbacks, right, since Derek Carr. And what has it got the Raiders winning late games in week 17 and 18? It's got them nothing. So Maxx Crosby, if I were John Spytek, I would sit Maxx Crosby down and say, hey, Max, you're a great player, but you can't do it alone. The help has to come from the offensive side of the ball. We're trying to do that by getting a franchise quarterback. That is going to help you. So you got to look at it from beyond a individual level and look at the big picture here and see what we're trying to do to help you and help this team win some football games in January.
Right. And you look at it, to your point, you look at the Browns, Myles Garrett, about to set the record. He needs one more sack, right? How are the Browns doing? Now they've won more games than the Raiders, but they're horrible.
Four wins.
Look at the Giants with Burns, right? Another sack leader. How are the Giants? They're the 29th ranked defense. Listen, one player is great, and that's awesome. Doesn't mean shit. Excuse my language. But guess what? And this is it. Again, I like Maxx Crosby, but Maxx Crosby acted like a child. Okay? I'm going to take my ball and go home. Well, Max, if you don't want to be on the Raiders, then you can ask for a trade. You could have done that the last 3 years. Now, do you want to be the great player on the crappy team just because it's all about you? I guess you could do that. And I don't know for sure that he's doing that. He might have just reacted emotionally. The generation we're talking about tends to do that on social media. Everything's an emotional reaction. We've seen it with players all over the league, but you're right. Brock Bowers, nothing. Jeremy Chin, nothing. Jack Besh, nothing. Nobody said a word. Because do you want to win? Maxx Crosby, and I believe him, he's always said, I just want to win. But he's been through a lot. I don't want to hear victim mentality either. If you've been through a lot and you're tired of going through what the Raiders have put you through, get out. And I'm not saying they should trade him because I don't think they should. But if he wants out, different story. Honor the player, give him the chance to go somewhere else. God bless him. I got no problem with that. Right? But this other stuff just doesn't make a lot of sense. It was great fodder for TV, but again, it made the Raiders look what they are. And what they are is a dysfunctional franchise. See how it permeates everything, Mo? It goes through everything from the front office to the coaching staff to the players. It's all just a mess of goop, of dysfunction. Okay.
I,
So hopefully they can get past it.
I look at it this way, right? And the Raiders have had their issues obviously over the last decades, right? But
Yeah.
with the shutting down of these players, I felt like for once the Raiders had a direction. They obviously have a
Thank
plan.
you.
Now Maxx Crosby is not on board with that plan clearly,
That's
but
not what he gets paid to do.
they have a plan though. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm fine with this. And a lot of people are like, what if the Raiders win the game? To me, it didn't matter about the result.
Right.
They're trying their best to get in position to change their short-term and long-term future. I don't fault the Raiders for doing that. They made, again, the best decision for the team. Maybe not the best decision for Max, who wants to play and felt like he could have played and probably could have because he's been playing with knee injuries since late September, early October, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But I don't wish this on anybody, but let's say Max goes out there in the last 2 games, he pops his Achilles or his ACL. Because we know what happens when you play with injury, sometimes you overcompensate for that injury, right? Something happens, you get hurt. Now, that can happen on any given play. But can you imagine you're out there in week 17, 18, trying to beat the Giants in a week 17 game? I don't want to call it meaningless, but it has no bearing on playoffs, and you could fall back in the draft order, and then you lose Maxx Crosby because of an injury because he's overcompensating for it.
Yeah.
I don't blame the Raiders for protecting their assets. Let's not forget, Scott, these are organizations with
Assets.
investments in these players.
Correct.
You're protecting your asset.
Yes.
You don't want Maxx Crosby to get hurt. You want him to be on the field.
And Mo, he's a depreciating asset at this point too with his age, right? So Maxx Crosby has been at his peak, which isn't going to last a ton longer. Okay. I'm not saying he's going to be a horrible player. I'm just saying the natural ability of a player at the age, it is what it is. So to your point, protect the asset, whether or not it's protecting their asset to build their defense around him moving forward, which is what I hope they do. Or if Maxx Crosby wants to complain and say, I want to get out of Vegas, I'm tired of this crap, then you have to be able to trade him. How are you going to trade him if he's on IR because he blew his knee out in week 18 against the Chiefs practice squad? Right? You can't do it. So that's where people don't understand. And the players sometimes have to be saved from themselves. Okay. The Mark Davis criticism we've talked about many times here is he listens too much to the players. Well, guess what? For the first time, they didn't listen to the player. And that was a smart business move. It was a smart business move in a dysfunctional organization. That should give more people out there hope. It should give Maxx Crosby hope with some thought and reflecting on how it went down. Hey, Max, we want to get better. We want to get our quarterback. We want to set this up. And it doesn't deserve a long explanation to him. Do what you're told. You're making your money. You got your contract. Go on IR, get healthy, get ready for next year. That's all you got to worry about, my man, right? That's all you got to do. So we'll see if it goes down. But a lot of talk about that. A lot of people with opinions on both sides of the issue. All right, we're going to step aside for our final break. When we come back, we're going to get to your phone calls on the Raider Nation switchboard. It's Silver and Black today. It is Mo. It is Scott. Don't go anywhere. All right, welcome back. It's time for the home stretch here on this edition of Silver and Black today, an Odyssey Sports original podcast. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you get your audio. Hello to our audience on the radio, 101.5 KDON and KXNT 840 in Las Vegas. Scott Branson, Mo Moten back with you. We're going to get to your phone calls now. Mo, real quick on this game Sunday against the Chiefs, not much to talk about here other than wanting to see some of these developmental players, some of these young guys get. If you were on the sideline this Sunday at Allegiant Stadium against the Chiefs, who's the one player you want to see for the Raiders get some significant playing time?
I'll say Jack Bech if he's healthy, only because is he a wide receiver 2? I don't see him as a 1, but is he a wide receiver 2? Is he a 3? What is his potential ceiling? Because essentially going into the offseason, he is going to be, you could say Trey Tucker's your best wide receiver, but that's not saying much. You drafted Jack Bech in the second round. You're expecting second rounders to be heavy contributors. So that's the guy I'm looking at on the offensive side of the ball from my perspective.
Yeah, I'd like to see Dylan Lowby in this game. I'd like to see a healthy dose of, what do you got? What is he? Zamir White, we know what he is. Of course, Ashton Genty, I'd be
Oh
careful
my
with him. To your
God.
point, don't get a knee injury in week 18 of a meaningless game. Let's look at Dylan Laube, but give him all the carries behind that stellar offensive line. See what he can do. If he can pull out 100 yards behind that offensive line, maybe you got a future star. Anyway,
Oh my God.
we move forward with your phone calls. Here, we're going to start off with our good buddy out in Chicago, our all-star caller, Tarek. Here he is.
What's up, Scott and Mo? This is Tarek. Just got back to Chicago from Texas. Just also watched the Raiders get their asses handed to them 34-10 by the Giants. Thank you, G-Men. Thank you, Geno Smith, for those 2 picks. And it's great to hear that we, no matter what happens in the final week of the season, we have clinched at least the number 2 overall pick. And if the Giants beat the Cowboys next week, which is unlikely, the Raiders can still clinch the number 1 overall pick if they beat the Chiefs. It's nice to see Crosby shut down. I'm going to make a bold prediction and say he's played his final game possibly as a Raider. Nice to see Bowers shut down, and we need to shut down Genty as well. It would make absolutely no sense for him to play against Kansas City. He played way too much in the second half of this game. But again, Pete Carroll better be gone. I think at this point in time, if the Raiders, they better not screw up this offseason. Right now, they should have they should have a board for potential new head coaches. They should have a free agency board lining up as well as a draft board. So the Raiders going to have anywhere between 103 and a little over 116 million in cap money this upcoming offseason, which is going to be second in the league. They better spend it. And at this rate, it looks like we are guaranteed to get either Dante Moore, Fernando Mendoza, Lenore Sellers is another name to watch for. But that's a starting point. We have a long way to go, but hopefully it'll start with getting the front office in order, as I said in a previous call, and then a really, really solid, sensible head coach search. And then that guy brings in a really, really quality coaching staff, then prepare for the free agency as well as the draft. But it's nice to see them clinch the number 2 overall pick. That's a big step towards at least a starting point to try to get back to anything resembling relevance. Hope you guys had a great day. I hope you had a great Christmas. Hope you have a great week. Looking forward to your next shows, and I will talk to you later. Bye-bye.
There you go. There's Tarek shutting down Ashton Genty. Now, I don't disagree with that to a certain extent, Mo, but he's at 888 yards. I'm going to guess that he has an incentive to reach 1,000 yards. He's not far from that. So we may see, I'm not saying he's going to get there with how that offensive line looked again, but I think they might play Ashton Genty because they're trying to give the player the opportunity to maybe get a bonus.
Yeah, so really quick note, Lenore Sellers is returning to college, so just putting that note out there. But as far as the Ashton Genty incentive, that I think you're right about that. I think there could possibly be an incentive for him to reach a certain milestone, and that goes for a lot of other players. And people are bringing that up about Maxx Crosby, that he may have incentives in his contract. Maxx Crosby's been paid multiple times, though. This isn't a rookie trying to get incentives and get paid on a rookie deal. This is Maxx Crosby who signed multiple extensions right now. I'm not saying I'm not counting another person's money, but it's a big difference between Maxx Crosby trying to reach incentives and make more money and a rookie trying to make more money on incentives. So I do expect to see Ashton Genty on the field. The other thing is, as I understand, people were saying the Raiders were soft tanking and skirting around the injury report and making things seem worse than what they were for some of the players. But I still think you have to have a legit injury to shut down a player. You can't just shut down a healthy player.
Yeah.
Because the NFL is gonna probably investigate and look into this. And I wouldn't be surprised if the NFL looked into teams now soft tanking at the end of the season. So you have to be careful about shutting down players who are 100% healthy. Let's remember, again, Brock Bowers was banged up early in the year. Maxx Crosby has been playing through a knee injury. Jeremy Chin, it was the first time I heard about Jeremy Chin being banged up, but maybe he got banged up in that last game. So, again, I think you got to be careful with the NFL and shutting down players, because they can come in and investigate and say, does he have a legitimate injury and what is it?
Right. And again, that doesn't mean that you just don't put him out there that much. He might get 5 carries, right? But I do think, again, being 112 yards away from 1,000-yard season as a rookie, I think you'll get if they can run the ball well early, you'll see him more. If they don't, and they're not getting anywhere, then maybe you see his as you saw against the Giants, actually, that happened too. You saw his carries go way down, and I think that's what happens there too as well. All right, Tarek, thanks for the call. All right, we're heading out next to Zach up in Maine. We go from Chicago all the way to Maine.
Hey guys, this is Zach from Maine. Really psyched about the result from today's game. I was calling because with Fernando Mendoza sort of in the, I guess in the sights of the future potentially, depending on how the last week shakes out, I wanted to see, is he really that good of a quarterback? I hear from friends who are big into college football, and I've heard things like he's one of the worst Heisman winners for a quarterback in terms of his numbers. And I guess also along those lines, is he a good enough quarterback that's going to be able to recruit a legitimate, seasoned, solid head coach to lead the franchise in the future? Really appreciate you guys' show, and look forward to listening to it this week. Thanks.
All right, there you go, Zach up in Maine. Listen, you'll find various opinions on every player in the NFL draft. There are people who study the draft. That's all they do for a living. And some people will love players and some people will not. I think consensus, Mo, in every draft profile, publication, website, expert that I have seen ranks Mendoza either 1 or 2 in this quarterback class. And there's lots to like about him. Is he perfect? No player is perfect. But I want you to consider this. Ready, Mo? This is the kind of quarterback I think a Tom Brady loves. 6'5", 225. He throws the ball. Dante Moore, to me, is a better pure passer than Fernando Mendoza, by the way, but we don't know if Dante Moore is coming out either. But either way, you look at it, he is a mobile pocket passer, i.e. functional mobility. He's not going to run. He's not even a Drake May, although there's some resemblance there to some of his play. But I think if you look at the size and what he's able to do, and with the right offense, and is he appealing to a young coach to appeal them? Absolutely. As long as you have a young quarterback that you can mold. It's not like somebody's going to look at the Raiders job and say, well, they're taking Mendoza. I'll pass because I don't like Mendoza. I think that overall, when you talk to coaches and you see the consensus, Mo, people think Fernando Mendoza has a very, very good shot of being an excellent NFL quarterback.
Right. So again, I'll say at Bleacher Report, we have a dedicated scouting department, and our scouting department has been doing work on Mendoza since his Cal days, right? And I spoke to the lead scout there, and his closest comparison to Mendoza's ceiling was Cam Ward. He said a lot of people are going to say his mentality is Andrew Luck-like, but he's not an Andrew Luck-like talent as far as on the field. Right. His mentality, the way he carries himself, very Andrew Luck-like. But don't confuse that with you're getting Andrew Luck on the field, because you're not. He's not that type of prospect. But he is a pretty good prospect, and a lot of the scouts consensusly say that he is the best quarterback prospect in this class. Now, there are some people that do prefer Dante Moore out of Oregon, and there's an argument for that, and we'll have a bunch of those discussions in the offseason. But I wouldn't get swept up in the talk now all of a sudden that, oh, Mendoza's not that great of a prospect, because, and Mark John talked about this over at Tape Don't Lie. He said, it's funny how once the Raiders are in position to get the #1 overall pick, now all of a sudden the prospects aren't that good all of a sudden. Right? Oh, now Mendoza's arm, he doesn't have an NFL arm. I think that's the biggest criticism now, is that, oh, his arm isn't strong enough. Oh, he doesn't have an NFL arm. He doesn't have the NFL talent arm to be able to carry an offense. And I to me, I say, does Purdy have a great arm? You know, do necessarily all of these starting quarterbacks that you see, I mean, I know we watched Matthew Stafford in his heyday launching downfield. I know we see a lot of these quarterbacks who are enamored by arm strength. But I don't think arm strength, when you're evaluating a quarterback, and scouts will tell you this, I don't think arm strength is the most important thing. I know it's great to watch Josh Allen have a cannon and throw it downfield 50 yards, but it's not the most important trait for a quarterback.
No. The accuracy, the ability to read the NFL defenses. So that's the cerebral part you're talking about. Remember, where you lack certain talents and abilities, you can make up for in other areas. And I think that's why I like Mendoza so much as well, to your point about he may be Andrew Luck in the head. He does not have the physical ability that an Andrew Luck had or a Peyton Manning with that gun. No question. And that's not what I'm saying, but I think he is smart. He is cerebral. He is the kind of guy, to me, that if I'm Tom Brady too, and if Tom Brady's going to, do what he should do and get out of TV and just devote his time to the team that he now owns, that's the kind of guy I want, because that's the kind of guy who's going to just suck it all in, learn it all, and be a leader. And that's the thing too. Leadership comes back to, I think Dante Moore and Fernando Mendoza, by the way, both great leaders. But with Mendoza, you saw throughout the whole process of going through the Heisman, which is a lot of attention, man. It's a lot. It's not easy for a young guy to go through that, and he handled it with flying colors. So we'll see. But good question there. Go ahead.
Really quick, and he did ask directly. He said some of the people he talked to said that he's the worst of the Heisman Trophy winners. I would say that Mendoza has a higher ceiling than Bryce Young, who won the Heisman in 2021. I'm looking at here.
Yeah.
So I would take, if Bryce Young and Mendoza were both coming out, I would take Mendoza over Young just off the top of my head.
Or go back to Manziel. Go back to Gino Torretta, for God's sakes. You want to talk about bad Heisman Trophy winners that you could see writing on the wall. But again, that's a whole different thing. And by the way, a Heisman Trophy does not mean you're going to be a great pro player. We have many examples of that. That's a college award. Okay. I know we use it to talk about Mendoza, but I would tell you, Zach, go on YouTube and watch some Indiana games from this past year, not highlights. Okay. Because highlights are highlights. You're going to see the best of the player. Just go watch some games. Watch some games and watch how he plays the game and what he does, the decisions he makes, the arm, the throws he makes. Because you know what? You can make a dime throw for 20 yards that doesn't make a highlight reel, and you look at it and you say, wow. Just like I used to do that with CJ Stroud when he was on Ohio State. I'm like, dude, this guy can thread the freaking needle. So all this stuff about him not being very smart and all, it doesn't matter. He can thread the needle. And if you don't see that in the highlight reel all the time. So that's what I would do, is invite you to go watch some of those games. If you want to know
the other thing really quick, Scott, I mean, watch him in the college football playoff. Indiana's going to be playing. They're going to be going against top teams in the nation, because one of the other criticisms against Mendoza is that he's thrown a lot of his touchdown passes against lower level competition. Well, he's in the college football playoff right now. He's going to go against top competition. Watch him snap to snap, not just what the team is doing. Watch the way he throws the ball, pre-snap, post-snap. Watch everything in this college football playoff, because he could be on the Raiders this upcoming season.
Right. And you mentioned Josh Allen earlier. Oh, Josh Allen, he played against the Mountain West. He's not going to make it in the NFL.
Right. There you go.
You got the ability, and you have the right coaching staff. Look at Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams. I rest my case, Judge. Okay. Now we're going out to CJ out in Sacramento.
Hey, Scott. Hey, Mo. It's CJ again from Columbus.
Oh, Columbus.
It's exactly
Sacramento.
7 p.m. in the Eastern time zone, and I'm going to get right to it.
Listen to that.
Hallelujah. They understood the assignment, and they did it. And that's all I can ask for. We got one more game to a franchise quarterback, the first big swing, maybe the first domino to actually getting out of this gutter that we've been in ostensibly since 2002. They had me going for a second until Deontay Banks, who Giants fans are absolutely in nuke meltdown mode right now all over the internet, housed that kickoff return after Geno Smith thought he was Patrick Mahomes for a series. And you know what? Good. All of these people complaining, all this other stuff. Oh, you don't want to lose. Yeah, we do. We need that number 1 pick. We also need to be able to pick at the top of every draft, of every round in this draft, having the ability to maneuver, having the ability to move up and down, to be able to finally take some swings and start addressing this absolutely atrocious roster that we're stuck with right now. Because the reality is, I kept thinking about it. I was like, what's the best parallel for this team in this circumstance? And it's 2013. That was the year we had Terrell Pryor and Matt McGloin. And then basically that was the last year that Reggie McKenzie was in sort of cap hell, and they drafted Mack, Derek Carr, and Gabe Jackson the following year. And they went 3-13, but they had actually started to establish a foundation of players. And then 2015, they were more competitive. And then 2016, they were ready to win. that's the best case scenario for this team right now, is to be able to sort of start laying a foundation, watch those guys have the ability to ascend, and then maybe start to win after a couple of years. But you've got to do that by putting yourself in a position where you don't have to give up capital to acquire players that would give you the opportunity to do so. So today, I hope, is one of those dominoes that ends up being a greater chain into something that might actually reap some benefits down the line. So I'm happy. I'm glad. I hope you guys feel the way that I do. Take it easy, fellas. Have a good one.
Well said, CJ. Up I-71 in Columbus from Moi. Good call, man. He's had 2 good calls in a row the last 2 weeks, Mo.
Yeah. Maybe we should have CJ in the Raider front office, just kind of whispering sweet nothings into John Spytek's ear.
There you go. He can be Spytek's check. Say, dude, let me check you. Let me make sure you're being held accountable for where you need to take this team. But he brings up a good point. And I think, and I said this on the post game the other night, Mo, that I don't think the Raiders go from being 2-14, which is what I believe they'll be, or 2-15. Yeah, 14.
2-15.
15. Thank you. They're 2-14 now. To doing what we've seen with even Carolina and some of these other teams where they're going to win 8-9 games next year. But I do see the ability for this team within 2 seasons to be there at 500-ish if you make the right moves. You get the quarterback, you surround him with a better offensive line, you use your money appropriately, and you hit on your draft picks. I mean, yes, it's all if, but we've seen too many examples of this in the NFL where if you make the right moves strategically, you can turn a franchise around on the field with the right leadership, right coaching staff, right talent pretty quickly.
If they get the head coaching quarterback combination right, the sky's the limit.
Yep.
Just look across the league. What happens when you put a talented quarterback together with an offensive minded head coach?
Yeah.
Jacksonville, Chicago, and then you got other examples of a defensive minded head coach hiring a pretty good coordinator. Washington has Cliff Kingsbury, who developed Jaden Daniels. Now, Jaden Daniels fell off this year. He's been hurt, but look at what Washington did, going from bottom to NFC Championship game. So in New England, Mike Vrabel is a defensive-minded head coach, but he brought back Josh McDaniels, who isn't a good head coach, but is a pretty good play caller, and you see what he's doing with Drake May. So it has to start. The foundation, as CJ said, from my perspective, the foundation is quarterback, head coach. And that head coach has to be aligned with the GM. You get that right, all of a sudden you can go from last to first in division. You can go from a team that wins 2 to 4 games to a team that goes to the playoffs. We see it turn over every year. I write this article every year, Scott. Every season, there are at least 5 to 6 new playoff teams every year. 4 to 6 new playoff teams. And that's not by accident. That's just a turnover in the NFL.
Right. There you go. All right. On to Dave Casper, the Ghost. Here he is.
Hey, boys. Dave Casper, the Ghost from upstate New York. It's been a couple of weeks. The day after yet another loss to the Giants, a game which I thought the Raiders had a really good chance of winning. Anyway, I just want to, I've been doing a lot of soul searching as an almost 50-year Raider fan. And this by far, as a fan, is probably the lowest point that I've had. It really hurts my soul that I have to root for my team to lose. And I know for the bigger picture, that is what you need to do. I was rooting for them to lose yesterday. I mean, I'm not going to lie. And as per Mo's request, I was wearing my bag. My wife was making fun of me, but that's another story. But it hurts me that I have to root for my team to lose. With all that being said, I don't know. I'm completely complacent about this team. I've lost, and that plays into the part that I'm in my late 50s. So obviously, there's a whole lot of other things going on in life that prevents me from being so fully dedicated as a fan when I was in my teens and 20s, etc. But as a fan, watching this organization slow demise over the last 25 years is just heartbreaking. The Raider fan base deserves better than this. And I know every team can say the same thing about their fan base, but the Raiders fan base are some of the most loyal fans that you'll come across. With the Davis family jerking them around, moving them from Oakland to LA, back to Oakland, now to Vegas, all the terrible drafts and signings. And we deserve better, and the league deserves better. The league is better when the Raiders are good. The league needs villains, like baseball has the Yankees and the Lakers in the NBA. The leagues are better when those teams are good. This league would be better if the Raiders were good. And I have zero hope for this organization going forward.
Wow.
I don't care that Mark Davis is paying all these coaches their money. He is a billionaire. This organization is worth billions. Fire Carroll, rip this team down to the studs, and start over. Appoint one voice, one vision. I've said this before, whether it's Jim Gray, Amy Trask,
Jim Gray,
someone. It is just so disappointing.
Oh, there he goes. He ran up to the time limit. He went over the time limit. Dave Casper, we always appreciate your calls. Wow. He kind of got me bummed out. I mean, but you know what? It's interesting, Mo. I want to get your take on this. And some people will take this the wrong way, but this idea that the Raiders make the NFL better. The NFL's been doing fine without the Raiders for 30 years. And I get what he's saying about the villain, the Yankees. The problem is the Yankees, yeah, they had some down periods, but the Yankees have continued to win consistently, which is why people still hate them. I think a lot of people, those of us older, and Dave's in my age group, closer to my age group than you guys, they understand that because back in the day, including myself, when I grew up a Charger fan, I hated the Raiders. Absolutely hated the Raiders because they were good and they kicked your ass. It's been a long time since that's happened. And so to get that back, I don't know that should be the goal. That's why when people were criticizing Fernando Mendoza, he's a dork. Oh, who cares? Win football. Be hated because you win football, not because you have stickum, not because you poke people in the eye. And I love those guys. Don't get me wrong. But this is the new NFL. This is a new era. You need to create a new identity for yourself. And that's what I think the Raiders this offseason have to do. And to his point, they owe the fans. The fans have been sitting there for a long, 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 long time. And I'd like to see it happen.
I think fans who pay to watch the Raiders and pay those high prices deserve better because you're now jacking up the price to watch a lesser product. Usually when you pay more for something, you expect a higher quality product. Do you not? Right. I think that should apply here. So I do agree with him when I think fans who are actually, now, not to disrespect fans who are at the games, but especially fans who are attending these games and investing their money into this football team and traveling. Absolutely. Yeah. I think Dave Casper Ghost comes from an era where, yes, the Raiders were the villains of the NFL, and they made it fun because, as he said, when you have a villain, you have someone that everyone can't stand. It just makes it, when you have an antagonist, it makes it that more fun to watch.
Right.
And he has experienced those years. I think for the younger fan, the under 20, under 30 crowd, they're not familiar with those Raiders.
No.
And I think when they look at the Raiders, they think, well, we just want a competitive football team. But I think if you're in the bucket that Dave Casper the Ghost is in, you remember when those Raiders were the hated villains and were good, and you want to see that back again. So I understand that point of view.
Your age group, Mo, the hated team for you guys, and I'm using your rough age, the Patriots, right? Everybody hated the Patriots. Yeah. Now, I hate to tell you, Dave, and I agree with you, but I hate to tell you, the Raiders, the hated team that everybody roots against now is the Chiefs. They are that team. Yep. Patrick Mahomes. Now, nobody wants him injured, but all his dancing on the side. Everybody hates that. That's the same kind of thing people hated the Raiders for because they won and they did it with swagger and they didn't care. And so each generation kind of has their team. Now, could the Raiders be that team again? Absolutely. It's got to win, baby. Just got to win. All right, we're going to get to our last caller now, our buddy Anders out in Oaktown. Here he is.
Hi, fellas. It's Anders from Oakland calling. I hope you guys are doing okay. That was kind of a debacle of a game, but you already knew that. I think if they bring Pete back, we're at the point where it's not really even his fault. Like, if the management of this organization thinks it's a good idea to bring this guy back, I think it's kind of hopeless. I got a list of about 100 reasons why it's a bad idea, but I think there are 2 or 3 that kind of rise to the top. For me, the first thing that he is saying is, this is the only way I know how to coach, and it's the only way I'm going to coach. Well, when you're 2-14, I'm not sure that's a good thing. If you think that this old way of coaching is the right way to go, you can point to how you won the Super Bowl 10 years ago or whatever. But if you think that your old way of coaching is the best way of coaching to beat the likes of like Johnson or Shanahan, or another 14 teams, I think you've kind of lost it and you need to move on if you're saying this is the only way I'm going to coach. I think the second thing is all of this blaming stuff that he does. Even at the press conference today, this is what he literally said. I don't doubt these guys one bit, to referring to his players. Well, neither do I. My doubt is with you. Like, he's laying these losses on the players, which is just pathetic, in my opinion. And lastly, I watched the Niners and the Bears play tonight, and as much as I hate it, the Niners doing well, but is there anybody on this earth who thinks that Pete Carroll is going to beat either Shanahan or Johnson or Vrabel or, Cohen? Like, nobody can believe that that's going to happen. Truly. Like, just move on, is my opinion. If they keep him, man, that's all on Davis and Brady, and they've shown again and again and again, and they will prove it again that they have no idea how to make personnel decisions. Just my 2 cents. Take care, guys. Bye.
As always, Honors with some sage thoughts, Mo.
As always, and you know what it is? I think what he's hinting at, you correct me if I'm wrong on this, Anders, but the game's passed Pete Carroll by. A lot of people have said this, that, yeah, Pete Carroll had his rivalry with Shanahan, NFC West, right? That happened. But as I said, look at the last 2 years of Pete Carroll's tenure in Seattle. Look how it went, and look at where Seattle is right now. They're battling for the #1 seed. They went from a middling squad around 500 to a team that could be the #1 seed in NFC. And they moved on from Pete Carroll to get a younger defensive-minded head coach. They moved on from Pete Carroll and got younger with a head coach, and it breathed life into that football team. All of a sudden, they're top of the conference, top of the division again. It's not by accident. Pete Carroll has a great resume. He won a Super Bowl. He went to another. He built up USC, and he gets a ton of respect for that. But at some point, you have to stop living in a rearview mirror and living in 10, 15 years ago and look at what's happening in the present. And the Raiders need a fresh start. They need to look ahead and not backward.
Well said. I can't add anything to that. Everyone, thanks for calling into the Raider Nation Switchboard. If you want to be a part of our next show, 702-900-7869. That's 702-900-7869. Mo, let everybody know what you got coming up this week.
I know it's a lot of festivities going on, New Year's going on. I have 2 more Raiders BR VODs. I'll talk about the draft implications. A lot of people are all over the place about how far the Raiders can fall if they win, what has to happen. If they do win, can they still get the #1 overall pick? I'll break all of that down over at Bleacher Report. And I'll talk about a little bit of what I talked about here, and is that Maxx Crosby, regardless of what his future holds, he has to see the bigger picture. And sometimes when you're in the moment and you're giving it your all in the moment, which is commendable, and I understand that, sometimes you lose focus of the future, the bigger picture, what's ahead, how things could help you in the long run. And I'll break that down over at Bleacher Report as well. And I hope that Maxx Crosby is a Raider for the long term, and I hope he's not traded, but we'll see in the offseason.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you on that. The next time we will speak to you will be Sunday after the game. Myself and Murph from Raiders Fan Radio will be live on video to break down the Chiefs game and look forward from there. We do our video drop-in, so you can actually join us live via video. We even had Rossi from Australia, our buddy, longtime listener and viewer, join us all the way from down under where the toilets flush the other way. I don't know. That's true, isn't it? Anyway, we had fun with him. We had a lot of folks come on there as well. So make sure you tune in for that as well. We certainly appreciate you being with us. And do us a favor, make sure you subscribe to the show wherever you get your audio. Just look for Silver and Black Today. Of course, we have the podcast version. You can get that as well. We got some draft folks coming up in the next few weeks once we get past this Week 18 game. So we're going to start looking ahead at what the Raiders have to do and who they might select, Fernando Mendoza, in the NFL draft coming up here in just a few months. Mo, my friend, enjoy your New Year's Eve. And I know you'll have a great 2026. I have no doubt about that. But Happy New Year, my friend.
Happy New Year to you, Scott, and everyone listening. Thanks for staying with us through another bad season of the Raiders. By far, in my opinion, the worst season I've covered. But we appreciate you all for listening and joining us week to week. Have a good one, Scott. Have a good one, Raider Nation.
All right. I want to give a big thank you to our producer on the radio in Las Vegas, Mr. Mark Bonilla. Happy New Year, Mark. And also our producer at Odyssey, Mr. Mike Robier. Happy New Year to you as well, Mike. And Happy New Year to all of you out there in Raider Nation. We'll talk to you Sunday after the game. Take care, everybody. All right.